Item number YOS 2343. Object Class Keter. Threat Level Danger. Containment Procedures. YOS 2343 is to be sealed in the bathroom at all times. If it attempts to open the door, it must be immediately shut and locked. No one is to enter the room YOS 2343 currently lives in. Any attempts by members to enter is removed by force. Subjects who are infected by YOS 2343 must be quarantined with no reflective surfaces on site. Personnel are to administer the infectees with Class E amnestics if necessary. Description: YOS 2343 is the spiritual manifestation of an unknown humanoid entity that resembles a nude African American male. It is only viewable through reflective surfaces, and it only manifests when an individual enters the bathroom from it resides in and observe the reflection of the mirror, although subjects will report that they don't see their reflection, but they see a nude man staring at them. At this point, the subject will become infected, and will see the same figure in any reflection they see. However, after the entity has been observed, subjects hear a sound that is reminiscent of flatulence and defecation, presumably from the entity, and they see in a reflective surface that they might see the perspective of the entity changed, and instead appear with its back turned and bent over showing an overly thickened butt, and will continue to fart and poop directly at them while in a reflective surface. Subjects also report a bad smell of the flatulence and defecation, and they often have to leave the room to evacuate. Subjects also report that the entity is smiling menacingly at them at all times, and will follow them around by turning its head. They expressed extreme disgust upon seeing it, as they complain that a nude man is in their walls, as they see it excrete feces as if teasing them. Addendum 2343-1. Discovery. YOS 2343 was discovered when an individual is suffering from a pink eye due to a smell, and also seeing something. The man was interviewed, and was administered amnestics. The house was purchased by the foundation, and the bathroom is to be permanently sealed. Addendum 2343-2. Interview. Interviewer: Dr. Zoe. Interviewee: D808.
Hello, D808. How are you feeling? This dude is driving me nuts. I feel like he's trying to kill me. Yeah, that's what happens when you look at that mirror. You need to do something about this. I need this dude to leave now. We'll give you amnestics if you want to. What do you need anyway? It's better not take anything. I want to know what you have found before this guy lists with you a lot. It was real shit. I don't know why. That guy was butt naked in the first place. Not so good to mention. He was smelling a lot as well. And I guess he won't stand messing with you? Yes. Please leave. We can leave now. Okay, calm down. Calm down. This is Dr. Zell. I get D0808 experience enough, so here for the district lightning show. Right away. Thank God.
Addendum 2343-3. Incident. Dr. accidentally entered the room and made contact with YOS 2343. He was quarantined soon after. After several hours, the smell grew more toxic due to the entity. Dr. was still alive despite the toxicity of it. The smell spread through the entire site and emergency protocols were triggered. Dr. was administered amnestics and the bathroom was sealed permanently with additional locks. YOS 2343 was covered with multiple long pieces of tape in order to not cause another incident. Item number: YOS 2878. Object Class: Safe. Containment Procedures. YOS 2878 is to be kept within a 7 meter by 7 meter by 7 meter enclosure made out of porcelain. Stains caused by YOS 2878 are to be removed on a 3-day period in order to prevent contamination.
YOS 2878 is allowed to roam the facility within 2 to 6 hours daily, and must be looked over when necessary.
Paragraph was stricken from the document. See Incident 2878-01. Physical contact with YOS 2878 must not be attempted, unless for testing purposes. Since YOS 2878 doesn't require sustenance from nutritional foods, foods made out of its mass are permitted. If YOS 2878 is experiencing changes in health or behavior, it must be reported by doctor and must be acquired in additional dose of its mass. Additional contact between Site 22 staff, and other anomalies, is to be limited. After multiple conversations with YOS 2878 and YOS 2884, its room must be connected with YOS 2884's new room connected with a wooden door. Description: YOS 2878 appears as a thick, gelatinous, partially translucent mass of what appears to be 425 kilograms of slime, appearing in a greenish color. It is entirely shapeless in its original form, but it commonly takes the form of what looks like a human female, although with some changes in its shape. It is sticky upon physical contact, and parts of its common shape constantly starts to drop from its mass. It can increase or decrease in height by somehow increasing the mass of itself, and can grow to the size of an African bush elephant, Loxodonta africana, and shrink to the size of an African pygmy mouse, Mus minatoides, but it mostly prefers staying to the size of an average human. Despite only taking the form of a female, it can change into other animals or objects if it wants to, but it will go back to its common shape once it completes its goal. YOS 2878 appears to not need sustenance by consuming real nutrients of numerous food supplies, and it lacks any internal organs within it, so it uses its own body to consume and increase its own mass at will. YOS 2878 can rarely at times wear any clothing that perfectly fits its body, although it shows signs of extreme discomfort when wearing a certain type of clothing. Even though it wears clothing, it mostly prefers not to wear them in order to not cause discomfort. YOS 2878 occasionally sheds its own mass at a time between 3 to 4 hours, and rarely sheds out large chunks of itself. This doesn't cause great damage or distress to it, as it can simply regrow its mass with little issue. The shredded material from YOS 2878 will remain intact for a 21-hour period, as a result, will emit large amounts of bacteria and contaminants, and will eventually experience decomposition for no less than 2 hours. This doesn't affect YOS 2878 in any way when it's nearby. This shredded material is somewhat edible to consumption, and can be digested without incident. Subjects who consumed the material reported that it has a sweet taste of strawberry jello, vanilla yogurt, milk chocolate M&Ms, and a small hint of chocolate chip cookies. The reasons for these flavored edible products within the material is unknown, as YOS 2878 is incapable of ingesting anything that is not its own mass. The shredded material is to be removed and will either be eaten or incinerated in order to prevent contamination. YOS 2878 appears to be passive to any living organism it sees, and will often try to communicate with them, with slightly muffled, slightly squishy yet still hearable English, although it will change its vocalization when with an animal, and sometimes take their own forms. Addendum 2878-1. YOS 2878 was discovered within an abandoned home, that has been partially covered with its own material, but emits a quite pleasant scent of smell. MTF Unit 34 went in, and it went with them willingly, and was transported to the site. Incident 2878-01. YOS 2878 was allowed to roam Site 22 at will, but the staff were unaware of it capable of shedding itself. As a result, the shredded material decomposed, and the site was in immediate lockdown. The hallways were polluted with a pleasant smell from spray devices, and the shredded mass was removed upon coming into contact with the water. YOS 2878 was eventually found and must be in its enclosure at all times. Addendum 2878-2. Interview logs. 2 interviews were conducted prior to incident. Interviewer: Dr. Kelvine. Interviewee: YOS 2878.
Hello 2878, can you still speak?
YOS 2878 nods, and attempts to speak.
Yes. I can, still, speak.
Great. I just want to ask you about the shedding on yourself. Is there a reason for that? Also feel free to take your time to answer.
I didn't notice any of that, but I didn't think any of that.
YOS 2878 is immediately capable of speaking without tissue.
Although I still can save myself.
What made you start doing this in the first place?
I don't know, I think I've got too much of myself to handle, so I decided to remove some of that I think.
Well, it causes a massive amount of bacteria to inject and it will decompose. That's why we need to get rid of those pieces from you.
Well, you should have brought it back to me if you are that desperate.
Well, unfortunately, that won't happen, because it might do something to you horribly, and we won't let that happen.
If you say so.
Anyways, I'll see you later 2878. Goodbye.
Interview Log 2. Subjects: YOS 2878 and YOS 2884.
Greetings, little strange green lady.
Hi.
My name is Sailor Moon, and it's my duty to save the world from threats.
That's nice.
I've known all of my teammates, and we can defeat evil, until they fall down defeated.
What kind of evil?
I'm afraid I can't tell, because I like to keep these guys a secret at times.
Guess that's fair. You seem pretty cool for a lady. You wanna be friends?
Sure, at least I got another good citizen to talk to. I'll try my best to see you as much as I can.
Thank you.
Closing statement. YOS 2878 and YOS 2884 was assumed to have become friends during the interaction, and YOS 2884 promised to see her for a random period of time. As a result, the interaction of both subjects is to be accepted. Addendum 2878-3. YOS 2878 was set up for multiple test logs for each YOS subject within Side 22. See Testing Logs 2878 for details. Testing Logs 2878. Below are the testing logs with YOS 2878. Test 1. Subject: YOS 029. Results: both subjects communicated with each other for a 4-hour period, before being removed prior to ending the test. Test 2. Subject: YOS 146. Results: YOS 146 starts teaching YOS 2878 multiple easy and complicated math questions during interaction. YOS 2878 begins to speak and somehow manages to solve YOS 146's questions correctly. YOS 146 seems proud of YOS 2878, and YOS 2878 is capable of solving questions related to mathematics. Test 3. Subject: YOS 302. Results: Subject 302 remained docile upon interaction with 2878, and both sat on chairs without saying anything. Test 4. Subject: YOS 436. Results: YOS 436 placed within YOS 2878's enclosure and immediately gained contact with YOS 2878. It then started attempting to touch the breast parts of it, but it seems to be causing YOS 2878 to be very uncomfortable with it, and sometime later would ask someone to remove YOS 436 from the enclosure. The request is approved, and YOS 436 was moved back to its container. Test 5. Subject: YOS 551. Results: YOS 551 started to encourage YOS 2878 about its own goals, and other activities it planned, and also showed a cheerful attitude towards YOS 2878. 2878 is seen with great enthusiasm, and is interested in hearing out 551. This conversation ended 5 hours later. Test 6. Subject: YOS 1297. Results: YOS 1297 immediately dosed its flames to an unknown material, as if not trying to damage YOS 2878 with its flames, and remains in a passive state until removed from enclosure. YOS 2878 does not seem to be comfortable with it, and tries its best to stay away from it, but YOS 1297 remains motionless until away from 2878. Test 7. Subject. YOS 1504. Results. YOS 1504 was placed inside the enclosure, and basically started to mess with YOS 2878 as much as she can. This made YOS 2878 very annoyed to the point that it wanted her out of the room. Subject was removed soon afterwards. Test 8. Subject. YOS 1552. Results. YOS 1552 was placed within the enclosure and started to encourage YOS 2878. YOS 2878 showed signs of excitement and a little bit of love. YOS 1552 was removed from the enclosure before YOS 2878 did something else. Test 9. Subject. YOS 2726. Results. YOS 2878 and YOS 2726 communicated with each other for 7 hours, before YOS 2726 left the room, with a promise at the end. Test 10. Subject. YOS 2884. Results. Both subjects are now in a friendly relationship when interacting with each other, and both of their enclosures are close to one another due to a promise with one another. Test 11. Subject. YOS 3285. Results. A 8-meter water tank is placed within YOS 2878's enclosure, and YOS 3285 interacts with it, and offers 2878 a hand to give her an anomalous effect that is to be looked after soon, and 3285 was removed from the enclosure. Test 12. Subject. YOS 3496. Results. A small container was opened to let YOS 3496 out. YOS 2878 showed small signs of fear upon coming into contact with it, although 3496 didn't attack it in any way, and was later removed from the cell. Test 13. Subject. YOS 4367. Results. YOS 4367 simply lays in the cell, and YOS 2878 simply does the same for 2 hours before YOS 4367 was removed from the cell. Test 14. Subject. YOS 4687. Results. YOS 2878 was provided with a computer device currently housing YOS 4687, and communicated with it. 4687 does not show any romantic attraction towards 2878, if it is aware that it took the form of a woman, and simply entered the room just to hang out with it, before disappearing 4 hours later. Test 15. Subject. YOS 5685. Results. YOS 5685 is placed inside the container, both subjects interact with each other. YOS 2878 shows no signs of love, and instead communicates with her. Test 16. Subject. YOS 7666. Results. Since YOS 7666 only affects males, the results were as expected. Both subjects simply communicated with each other for 7 hours, and told what their purposes are, and 7666 is removed by a female staff member.
Note. All of these YOS subjects seem to react in a similar way, going against their original purposes, although some of them made sense in a way. At least they didn't do any harm to 2878 in any particular way, although we had to forcefully remove them directly. I would prefer not to do any more tests with other anomalies, just in case the slime lady somehow manages to terminate a certain anomaly.
Dr. Coyote. Addendum 2878-4. After multiple conversations with both YOS 2878 and YOS 2884 were growing higher, both YOS 2878 and YOS 2884 were given a cell close to one another, and was connected with a single wooden door to allow access to the 2 different rooms. Item number. YOS 507. Object Class. Euclid. Containment Procedures. YOS 507 is to be kept within the 6-meter humanoid cell on all 4 sides. Inner windows must be soundproof to prevent an effect from it. Communications with YOS 507 must be limited no more than 3 minutes, and personnel are to immediately leave the cell after. Only personnel with Level 4 clearance are to interact with YOS 507 at any time. Personnel who are affected are to be placed in quarantine for 4 to 6 hours. Description: YOS 507 is a humanoid entity, with a rather flat face, colored yellow, with purple fur on its forehead, the rest of its body, and the back of its head, with 1.5-meter horns facing down. It also wears purple boots, with a pink bow tie on its torso. It has a mouth that can open up at a 90-degree angle, and functions similar to a puppet, and also shows no teeth. YOS 507 has confirmed that his rather small eyes make it difficult for it to see its surrounding environment, and often doesn't move at a certain amount of time. YOS 507 is also capable of speech, and it often likes to speak in order to keep it company, but he mostly prefers to speak with other people or sometimes animals. But if a person interacts or talks with YOS 507 for more than 3 minutes, they will keep talking with it non-stop, and will stop if their mouth starts aching or becomes tired. YOS 507 shows enjoyment when it talks with others, and will keep talking to others or himself, and show no signs of his mouth aching or becoming tired. Addendum 507-1. YOS 507's discovery. A woman named started bringing attention to the Foundation when she saw a rather communicative creature that seems to be enjoying talking to her. The woman was questioned and given amnestics, and the creature was taken to Site 71 for testing. Addendum 507-2. Interacting with YOS 507. AD class numbered 6701 went into YOS 507's cell and was requested to talk with it for more than 3 minutes. Audio was captured following this interaction. Begin log.
Hello.
Hello boy, how are you?
I don't even know at this point.
Well, I know what'll cheer you up. Communication. I've just been a good little boy, and then, I somehow ended up here.
I agree, I don't know why I'm here.
Well, do you see those folks over there? Who are they?
I'm afraid I can't tell you.
Okay then, well, as I was saying.
As 3 minutes passed, the D-Class was talking to YOS 507 non-stop, and he was eventually taken out from the cell and quarantined. End log. Addendum 507-3. The truth. Dr. went to talk with YOS 507. Begin log.
Hello 507.
Wait, you a doctor?
Maybe.
Okay, whatever.
Anyways, I need to tell you something. Why do you like talking so much?
Because it's my passion, man. I like doing things like this.
What made you start liking to talk?
Well, when I opened my mouth, a noise came out, and I like noises, so I kept making noises like these.
Well, everyone makes noises, including nature, and animals alike.
Did you just come here just to tell me that?
No, I still have more to talk about. When did you meet this girl?
You mean? I like her voice. She feeds me with joy, and I like it a lot.
That's what leads me to my next question. Why do you let people keep talking to you?
Because I like to feed on it, because I am hungry.
Okay then, I guess that's all I need from you.
Come back whenever you like.
End log. Closing statement. Dr. came out in less than 3 minutes, and there was no need for quarantine after this. Additional notes for description. YOS 507 seems to feed on people's voices by speech, and claims he allows people to keep talking to it because it was hungry. Item number. YOS 2570. Object class. Safe, Euclid class up for consideration. Threat level. Guarded. Containment procedures. The area where YOS 2570 currently resides in is surrounded by a tall 12-meter steel wall, 34 meters by 34 meters, and it is to be staffed with MTF Unit 12, disciplinary actors, and 15 research personnel. YOS 2570 must not be used unless for testing purposes, and must prepare MTF Unit 12 in the case that a new YOS 2570-1 instance emerges. In the event that YOS 2570-1 emerges and attacks nearby personnel, it must be subdued with extreme force. If a YOS 2570-1 attempts to escape the area, it must be terminated. Description. YOS 2570 is located in an abandoned farmhouse in the outer reaches of Kansas. The item appears as a pack of unidentified plant seeds, tan and black in coloration, and 1 millimeter long. YOS 2570 shows no anomalous activity at first, until it is exposed to grains of soil, and a small gallon of water, 2 to 5 gallons. Once it has come into contact with these two elements, it will develop for approximately 2 to 6 hours. Instead of maturing into a plant, it will form into a small, nude human child, 85 centimeters in height. This member is designated as YOS 2570-1. It will first appear as a torso, and will slowly come out of the soil, with the bottom of the torso emerging, and then the limbs will form underneath the soil, and then the entirety of the head. Once the formation is completed, the YOS 2570-1 specimen will show movement and attempt to get out of the soil. Once it successfully pulls itself out of the soil, it will enter a docile state when organisms are nearby. It will enter in an aggressive state when an organism is nearby, and will attack by exposing them to highly toxic doses of flatulence, and also toxic remains of feces. Once the subject expires, the specimen will consume their body until it remains as a skeleton. Once it has finished consumption, it will attempt to find a source of water to be submerged in. Once it finds one and gets in the water, it will heavily contaminate the water by heavily defecating and produce more toxic flatulence. Once it has finished, it will enter into its docile state once again. There is a 20% chance that YOS 2570 will form more than one instance of YOS 2570-1, and will not activate its formation despite being provided with the appropriate elements. Addendum 2570-1. YOS 2570 came to the Foundation's attention when a farmer found a strange pack of plant seeds. The farmer may have tried out these seeds by giving the right materials to them, and let it grow for hours. The farmer came out of his barn 1 hour later, when he noticed something coming out of the soil. He was almost disgusted when he saw what he thought was butts coming out of the soil. The farmer seemingly ignored the exposed butts, and checked on his farm animals. After 3 hours, the farmer came to notice that his farm animals had significantly disappeared, and he went out to look for them. He was shocked when he saw that there was a small nude child feeding on one of his sheep, and it was reduced to a skeleton by the time the farmer noticed. The child retreated once it was done, and the farmer was hit with a foul odor when he attempted to follow the child. The child led him to one of his large lakes, and got into it, along with the other nude children. The farmer heard loud sounds of presumed flatulence, and the water turned a lighter brown. The children left the pool when they were finished. The farmer immediately retreated to his barn once they've turned around. The farmer called emergency services, and he told the person what he saw. The person who picked up the phone hung up, and contacted the Foundation soon after. MTF Unit 12 was dispatched and immediately terminated the nude children on site. The farmer was taken into Site 08 for questioning, and the farm was set up as a containment zone. Addendum 2570-2. The farmer was interviewed prior to containment of YOS 2570. The farmer had received post-traumatic stress disorder prior to viewing YOS 2570-1. Interviewer: Dr. Cine. Interviewed: Mr.
So, Mr. How are you feeling today?
Not good. Those children were eating my animals.
We can tell, because we saw their skeletons still intact, but I assure you that you're going to be fine.
All right, ma'am. What do you need me for?
I want to know how you gained these seeds in the first place.
I don't know, they just seem to pop out of nowhere, and I can't remember the last time I got them.
So, are you saying that the seeds had appeared inside your barn randomly, without reason?
Yes, so I tried them because, why not? Then I came out an hour later, and I saw tiny butts all over my soil. It was gross, but I ignored it. But when I returned to my barn, things started to get worse.
Like what?
Little, naked kids are eating my animals, and they were a skeleton when I caught sight of them. I don't know if the kid sensed my presence, but he started to run off. I had to check what's up, so I did. They approached one of my large pools, and they started to.
Well, what did they do?
They started to poop on the pool. I can tell because the water turned brown. Turns out that 13 kids is enough to quickly change its color. Anyways, they've turned around and I retreated back to my barn to call authorities, and that's where you found me.
Well, that's one of the grossest stories I've ever heard. Anyways, that's all I need from you. We need to inject you with something in order to forget what you've experienced.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Addendum 2570-3. 30 YOS 2570 seeds have been set up for testing in order to see the limit of its reproduction. 0 hours and 1 second, the seeds have been placed and are now in the process of producing. 1:02 and 33 seconds, the back of the torso can be seen coming out of the soil. 3:21 and 43 seconds, as if right now, the limbs and the head have formed underneath. 3:44 and 12 seconds, 30 YOS 2570-1 specimens show signs of moving. 3:44 and 34 seconds, all specimens attempt to remove themselves off the soil. 3:45 and 2 seconds, all specimens fully emerged. 3:45 and 10 seconds, all specimens, except for the last 3, turn to look at the last 3 specimens. 3:45 and 23 seconds, all specimens start to attack the last 3, the 3 specimens attempt to fight back. 3:47 and 12 seconds, the 3 specimens were terminated, and are being consumed by their attackers. 3:56 and 45 seconds, all specimens finished their consumption of the targets. 3:56 and 55 seconds, all specimens approach one of the lakes. 3:57 and 34 seconds, all specimens enter the lake. 3:57 and 49 seconds, all specimens proceed to contaminate the lake is turning a bright brown. 4:01 and 45 seconds, all specimens cease their activity and leave the contaminated lake. 4:01 and 56 seconds, all specimens show no more activity.
Note: although this was supposed to be a log about how much YOS 2570 seeds it would take, still, that event was unexpected. I never expected that the YOS 2570-1 members would turn on the other 3, and they killed them in the process. I guess we now know the limit to what these seeds are supposed to be. Just produce less instances of YOS 2570-1, and they shouldn't exhibit a violent response to the number of specimens larger than that. We should save more of those seeds for later, and terminate all those instances of YOS 2570-1.
Incident 2570-1. Dr. placed 21 seeds of YOS 2570 into the soil, and took 3 to 4 hours to fully produce. All 21 instances of YOS 2570-1 approached the barn house, and instantly terminated all research personnel. MTF Unit 12 immediately arrived and terminated all instances. Dr. was given disciplinary action due to not acquiring permission from the Level 3 researchers for testing. Note: prior to the unknown number of instances of YOS 2570-1 and YOS 2570 itself, and how YOS 2570-1 specimens would react, Euclid class is under suggestion by the O7 Council, and testing will likely continue. Item number: YOS 367. Object class: Euclid. Containment procedures: YOS 367 is to be kept in a soundproof container, 5 meters by 5 meters by 5 meters, and must be locked at all times. No one is to enter said chamber for any reason other than for testing purposes, and must be accompanied by at least one Level 2 member. Anyone who suffers from temporary or permanent damage to the ears must be sent to Medical Wing 45. Description: YOS 367 is a rubber balloon, blue in coloration, and 40 centimeters in height. YOS 367 is easily destroyed when a sharp object comes into contact with it, or when destroyed by force. When it is destroyed, it will release a loud sound, about 956 to 1050 decibels, which will cause nearby subjects to suffer from temporary or permanent hearing damage and ruptured eardrums. However, this does not result in the termination of YOS 367, as it will regrow its previous shape and air filter from an unknown method. YOS 367 came into the Foundation's attention when a family of one father, one mother, 2 sons, and 2 daughters were suffering permanent hearing damage while throwing a birthday party for one of the family's sons. The family was taken away for medical treatment, and were interviewed. Due to their deafness, Dr. uses sign language to the mother and father for reasoning their cause of deafness. The father states that one of his sons accidentally hit and popped the blue balloon, and it was so loud that it resulted in permanent hearing damage to the family. The family were given Class A amnestics, and agents were sent to investigate the house. They saw that the blue balloon that was mentioned was still intact, and it was sent to site for testing.